Hello, my name is Jonathan EliGE Jablonowski, and I am back on Team Liquid. I am super excited to play back onto the team, and let's see what the season takes us. I'd say the thing that excites me the most is just the structure of the team and like how everyone's been playing this year. I think that Liquid's been a really strong team, just barely not getting over the line, and I think that I have a lot to give. I'm still super motivated, and I'm really excited to slot myself into the system and get ready. I'd say an overarching goal is still to win a major, just winning tournaments again, being at the very top. I think that I've still been playing pretty well individually and still motivated to do everything that I need to get the wins. So yeah, just keeping on just the tournament track. Favorite moments, of course, is the Grand Slam. I think that's when everything was going great. I mean, 2018, looking back, it's a bit better. Getting second isn't too bad, considering how much worse it could be. Of course, 2019 was great. We were a very strong team. I think that we had really good fundamentals. I think that we had, good team play and chemistry where we, Nitro, for example, would just see me going somewhere and he would already be offering what I want, or he would, already be walking up behind me, or Stewie or Russ, for example. So I think that was just a lot of stuff where, we talked about things, and it comes from just discussions, talking about the game, what we want to do, what we'll do next time, lots of scrims. I think that of course there's always a little bit more of a personal chemistry, where I think that you're not always going to get that with every teammate, and I think that it just naturally will come better with some players more than others, and it's about fitting in what was needed at the time, and that's how we were playing off of each other so well, in addition to of course everyone was playing very good on an individual level. Of course, there's a lot of difference between CSGO and CS2, and I think the individual level has risen a lot with a lot of players. Of course, everyone's always saying how you have to always be moving, always be peeking. I think that probably could have been true in CSGO as well. Players are just better. They know how to peak angles better. They know how to do micro, on such a higher level compared to CSGO, where I think a lot of what people complain about now with having to always be moving, I think that we were probably going to be getting there anyway in CS2. Aside from that, I mean, we have map pool changes and the smoke breaks, which is definitely my favorite. I think that it just brings a whole new level of the tactical side of the game, and you always feel like you can make something happen if you have a smoke break still. I'd say the hardest roles is either, IGLing or, being a support / anchor / lurk, that type of player. I think that, when you're anchoring a site or when you're lurking, it's a different style. For a lot of people that were playing that role in CSGO, they were used to, a slower style where they, didn't necessarily have to be doing all these little micro things all the time. But now if you're not doing them, you're just gonna get completely smoked. So I think it's been a pretty big adjustment for players playing that role. And I think it's pretty difficult. And I think the players that are playing really well in it are, doing a lot for their team. That's tough. So many bad maps to remove. I think if I was to remove any maps right now, I'd probably either go with Inferno or Train. I think that I just don't like how stuffy both of them feel. I don't think that there's another word that I think of it. I think there's just a lot less freedom on the T side, especially of what you can do. I mean, Inferno CT side, I also feel that way, where it just feels stuffy. It just there's not as much freedom, not as much options compared to the other maps. And Train, I just feel it's not that great feeling on T side for the same reasons. The other maps are probably, Mirage, Ancient, Dust 2. I think those three maps feel really good, where both sides have, a lot of push and pull that you can do, a lot of freedom to move the way that you want, take the space the way that you want, lots of different micro options and macro options. And I don't know, it just feels like the world is your oyster on those maps. I still would say that Vitality is the team to beat. I think that just because they're not winning tournaments, they're still at the top. They won tournaments since the player break. I think they're still the number one. I think that we're gonna have to show, multiple wins against them to, prove that we're at the top. But I think right now it is kind of, up in the air, because Vitality has shown a little bit of weakness, and there are some other strong teams out there. But I think until people have beaten Vitality, they probably won't feel as accomplished with their wins right now. I haven't really met all the guys yet. I've talked to Flashy before, and I know him because he was coaching my girlfriend's team, which is a funny coincidence. But yeah, I'm really excited for the structure and everything that I've talked about with him, with the team, of how they want to do things and how they want to go about improving and all that. And I'm completely on board. I'm super excited to get started with that. And in terms of the team, I mean, I've heard a lot of good things. I've heard that Ultimate is a pretty funny guy, jokester, even though I feel it doesn't seem like it, but I'm really excited to be playing with him. I also think that he's just a very strong individual operator. He's very young, so of course he has a lot to learn, but I think like his highs are really high, and I like that explosive style that he has. It even like is kind of reminiscent of like a Brokey simple, where they like getting into the action, you know, super hard, and I like that. In terms of you know, Shui, I think that he's a really good up and coming IGL, strong player as well, has done a lot more to show. Of course, I played with Keith before, excited to see like the changes with him, and I think that he's also been playing really good since the player break especially. And with Nerds, I think that he's just, you know, a really cool guy. I don't know, I feel like everyone just has like so much more like to show. That everyone's so young on this team, and there's just so much potential. There's so many good like individual moments and so many good like team moments as well, just barely not getting over the line like this whole year, and I just think that there's so much more to unlock. I'd say I just want to be remembered as, you know, one of the top players, just someone that like people remember for like the plays, or, you know, maybe they liked me as a player, or, you know, I like teaching as well. That's why I also have a YouTube, and I like, you know, teaching people like what I think about the game, how they can get better and stuff like that. So however of an impact I can make on, you know, players that are in the scene, just remembering me for like those things. There's a lot of really good players that are up and coming, that are getting into the scene, and I think that there's more information now than ever to, you know, improve and get better, and you're seeing that with so many young players coming into the pro scene. I think that there's just so many things that people can be doing. There's so much content. There's, you know, IGLs that are teaching like everything that they know on their YouTubes, or, you know, really cool stuff from the tournament organizers where they're having like round tables of people saying everything. So I'd say just take all that information and use it as much as you can, play as best you can. I think that there's so much that's out there that if you want to learn and you want to get better, then you can do it right now. Favorite knife?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually a vanilla skin type of guy, so I actually don't really look at skins or really care about them that much, so I have no idea. For this season, since I think that, you know, it's really tight timelines, I'm just going to be trying to do my best to like fit into what the team needs, doing, you know, whatever I can to make it as seamless as possible, especially being on like kind of like a time crunch, and, you know, just play as well as I can individually. I know that there's going to be like a lot of pressure. There's tournaments that are coming up, you know, right around the corner, and they're really important as well, and then we go into the major. So just doing as well as I can on the short term, and then after we get some breathing room, ironing everything out before the major starts. I'll be like playing very familiar roles. It's not every single one-to-one. Some new ones, some old ones, some ones that I've played before in the past, and like I kind of had a hiatus from and coming back into. So I'm gonna be trying to like play it what they're used to as much as I can, and then trying to bring in like my own flair a little bit afterwards. So yeah, I think that overall it's not gonna be too hard of an adjustment period in the beginning. Really excited to be back with you guys here at Team Liquid. I know that the fans are gonna be really excited, and I'm excited too. Just getting started and playing all the tournaments that we can, and, you know, anyone that's followed me from my other teams, I hope that you continue supporting me, and let's go Liquid.